This is Chet Holmgren, and I'm down to dunk.
This is AJ Mitchell, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Alex Crusoe, and I'm down to dunk.
It's like baby bottle pop. Yeah.
This is Adam Flagler, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, it's Isaiah Hartenstein, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kason Wallace, and I'm down to dunk.
I can't spell Lucas. Hey, how do you spell Lucas? How do you spell Lucas?
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Nikola Topic, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Dylan Jones, and I'm down to dunk. This is Isaiah Joe, and I'm down to dunk.
And there's probably like 50 to 75 Beanie Babies.
Give me like your top 3 Pokemon.
Brother, I can't even name.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
Sometimes the way his brain works is it leaves a lot to be desired.
This is Kenrich Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
Charmander.
Charmander.
Or you're more of a Charmeleon guy.
Charmeleon.
This is Shake Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
Schlecht. You know what it
Schlecht?
means? Yeah.
That means like bad.
It means bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me.
Well, it was a good interview, so it wasn't bad.
J-Dub, year 3, and I'm down to dunk for the 3rd time. Thank you.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. Before I get to my special guests, I got to tell you about 2 other special people. That's my good friends, Aaron and Drew Reese of Shelter Insurance. You can call or text them today, 405-478-7714. Call or text Aaron, 405-773-5500. These are guys, not only can you call or text them about insurance, you can also just text them and say, hey, man, Thunder up, because Thunder won the championship. That's pretty cool, and I think they think it's cool, too. But you can also call or text them today because these are trustworthy guys that you can trust to insure your car or your home today. Listen, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but something bad's going to happen to your car or your house eventually. It's going to happen. So you need somebody good to be there to help you. So please contact Aaron or Drew today. They're both equally good. Okay. Listen, I don't have favorites here. They're both good. Contact one or the other today. Call or text. With me today, special guest, Yossi Gozlan, who has a really great Substack, Third Apron Substack. He also has a podcast that I think is one of the more educational podcasts out there. If you are into the NBA and if you're into the CBA in particular, it's one that can just help you like you can't tackle the CBA in like one like podcast or one thing, but it just helps like chip away at like just like knowledge that you want to know. Yossi, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks for that intro.
So the Thunder, I wouldn't say they had like the most interesting offseason. One, you hope that things are not that interesting after you win the title because that means something has gone wrong. But to you, what is the most interesting thing as far as like team building goes that the Thunder did this summer?
I think they did everything I pretty much expected when, like we discussed earlier, when I thought about what will the Thunder do. In the traditional sense, absolutely nothing. Like I didn't expect them to add anybody other than whoever they come out with in the draft. And it was just about retention and how they're going to go about it. So out of all the players that they could have possibly restructured their deals or extended, they could probably do it. I think there's a couple other guys that might be extension eligible, but they did all the main ones. And I really like these deals. Especially the non-max ones. And as far as the max ones, I think the thing that stuck out to me the most is the way they structured Jalen Williams' contract. I think the way they went about giving him the escalators makes a lot of sense. I think, and we've seen teams, they structure it where most of the time it's you just get one All-NBA team. You make it the year you're supposed to qualify for a higher max. You get the full 30%. And I think that can backfire on a lot of teams. And I like how they did it with Jalen, where if he got third team, it's 26%, second team, 27%, but first team, 30%. I've never seen that type of structure. I know in the past there's been guys that get like that. If they're going to have those lower tier ones, it's like 26, 27, 28, something like that. I think it makes sense because when I think about who should be making a 35% max or up, I'm thinking like usually first team All NBA guys. And it's not necessarily only 5 guys, because I think a lot of the guys who are like second teamers, a lot of them, like you can make a case are up, they are in that tier
Sure.
of guys. But I like to get first team. That's not, that's not a joke. That means you're legitimately like one of the top 7 to 10 guys in the league. And if you could make that, then yeah, you probably do deserve one of the higher form of the maxes. So I think this makes a lot of sense, and shouldn't, I would expect that Jalen probably gets some All NBA team,
Sure.
probably not first team.
Mm-hmm.
So that shouldn't. So yeah, he'll make a little bit more, but it's really, I don't think it'll kill the Thunder's. Like I don't think it's gonna hurt them in the long run.
Can you maybe help like contextualize how much this helps the Thunder? Because I think when some people think about it, like I think it's hard for people because like they just think about the number that they get at the beginning, and the escalators is kind of like whatever. But can you help maybe contextualize like what a big deal it is that one, Chet didn't get any escalators, and then two, J-Dub did get them, but he's unlikely to hit that like top escalator number.
So I think a really easy way to look at it is that right now Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is making 25% of the max because he didn't make All NBA the year he needed to. I
Yep.
guess his 4th season. And not only that, OKC negotiated that deal to make sure he doesn't get a player option. So he's going to still be making the 25% max, which is going to pay him low 40s, like high at 38 and then 40 million next year. If he had that player option, then that new extension would immediately jump him up like another to that extra 5%. So he'd be making like over 50 million.
Yeah.
So the difference is if Jalen, if they made it so J-Dub can get the 30% max just by making 3rd team All NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about, instead of him making roughly like 41 million next year, then it's immediately going to jump to 50 million.
Yeah.
Big deal. That's a big deal. Sorry?
I say, yeah. I mean, like we're talking about like the salaries of guys that are very helpful to this team, like an Aaron Wiggins or an Isaiah Joe. It's like their entire salary and just like one jump there. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And so I think there's a huge, now that I've been following the cap for, now it's going to be like, I'm entering my 9th year, I think, of following the cap. I think there's a tremendous difference between the 25% max and then like the higher, like 30% and up.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of guys recently get the 30% or higher, and a lot of those contracts, those players don't meet the value of those contracts. Now, so when people talk about having 3 max players, there's a huge difference between the Suns having 3 guys that were making the 35% max.
Yeah.
And that just not working, versus OKC, at least just for this year and next year. Like this year, they still have Jalen and Chet finishing out their rookie deals. And then next year, they'd all be making like the same amount, 25% of them, which is 40 million each, roughly. So that's where I think, it's good to specify like what tier max, because there's different ones. And now that like the lower tier 25% doesn't even feel like a max in the way that fans traditionally feel the constraints of when you think about like what is like one of the highest end salaries. So to have SGA was gonna be jumping to the 35% eventually, but then to still have 2 guys that are expected to, Chad's gonna be 25, and then we'll see what Jalen is, but still it's gonna be like less than 30. That's more sustainable. That is a lot more sustainable, and not even just this CBA, but even the previous ones. And it'll be more so about how do they go about structuring the rest of the payroll around them to make sure, we'll see what they end up doing. They're going to be in the second apron, paying a lot of tax and stuff. I think it'll be more so about timing how they go about it. They're going to spend a lot of money. They've shown a willingness to spend. But as far as like having sustained success, having these specific types of max salaries is a lot more sustainable than some of the other teams in recent history.
Yeah. I love that you brought up the player option on Shea's last deal, or the not having a player option, because that allows them to have another year basically without having to pay the tax at all. I mean, that is a really, really good point, is how important those deals, like structuring them in that way, can be helpful to a team, because not having that big jump in this next year is allowing OKC to compete for championships, and we can put the S at the end of championships because they've already won one, um, without having to pay the tax. Like that's a really, really great point.
Yeah, it's more so for the following season. Yesterday we talked about, well, okay, they're going to enter the tax eventually. They're going to enter the tax after next season. Do they want to try to avoid the second apron one more year? That's where that is in play, because SGA didn't get a player option. Otherwise, if he did, his extension, he would get paid up front. He would decline it. Instead of making like 41, he'd be like at 60. So then that potential, that exercise we did would basically be out the window. I don't think there's really any feasible way they could get under it if SGA is making $20 million more already.
Yeah, it is such an important part of all of this, that really, because it was done so long ago, it's probably not something that's acknowledged all that much. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. What did you think about the Jay Will extension? Like, what was your thought on that one?
It's funny because for some reason I didn't have it on my sheet that he had a team option. That was like my biggest error on my sheet. So I didn't even see it. So I was kind of surprised when I saw it. And I think this just makes a lot of sense. Just first of all, that's a pretty inexpensive salary for one of the higher end reserve big men in the league. So to get him at like roughly the room mid level, that's a win. And like, if you're the Thunder, it's like, what else were you really gonna do with your money? What they focused on with all their moves this offseason, they got rid of one of their first round picks. That saved them some money. They traded Dylan Jones. That saved them some money. They could have gone out and signed another player if they wanted to, with that flexibility, use some of their mid-level, but they don't need to. Like, it kind of speaks to how deep they are, that like, instead of using that money to supplement the roster, they used it to help retain their current players. So I think to get Jay Will on that contract, like, it's not that. It's that for him. Yes, that's a big raise, going from the minimum to around like $8 million a year. But in the grand scheme of things, like, he's still the Thunder's 9th or 10th highest paid player. So that's a great value for the Thunder. They also gave so that's basically what that was like their big free agency move, just creating a little more space below the tax, and using that money to give Jalen Williams a bigger contract. If I was where he had a team option, then I would have seen it coming. But it just made all the sense to do this.
Yeah, and then they also declined the option on AJ and gave him a new deal that is obviously a really big deal for AJ. Like, it's funny, like, we're sitting here and we're like, oh man, I can't believe they got him for so cheap. And it's like, man, it's multi-million dollars, like $9 million. Like, it's an amazing deal for anybody just being alive, being a human being. Obviously, it's different in the NBA. But what did you think about that deal? I mean, I kind of look at it and think, like, man, like, Thunder kind of got a bargain on a guy that they early on in the season got a really good look at him. He's a guy that was drafted in the second round, given a 2-way contract, and never played in the G League. Like, they just knew, like, this is not even a guy that needs to touch the G League. He's a guy that can help, the big team. And he did whenever he was healthy, and then he got hurt, and who knows what would have happened if he didn't get hurt, but he's a guy that clearly Mark has some trust in. He threw him in there during the NBA Finals. But what did you think about the way that they structured that deal?
So him going from a two-way to like, what was it, $3 million, that conversion, that's pretty unprecedented. And I think just again, just to show how deep the Thunder are, that they have the luxury that they can pay their they can get a guy to convert their deal by paying that much money up front. Like, I don't think we've ever seen something like that for a second round pick in his rookie season. So now he's making like more, I think, than some of the like end of first round picks of last year's draft, I think. So
Yeah.
So in that context, it's a great deal for him. But like you said, yeah, in the Thunder's, given their situation, given how deep their roster is, and like he's probably not going to be a typical part of their rotation. I mean, it's still between guys 7 through 15. Daigneault will kind of do things situationally. But that's a great deal, and it's definitely a little higher than the minimum, but it fits their current structure, and I think it's good. So they got him for like another 2 years, and then the team option.
Mm-hmm.
So they locked him up, and he could be a major piece if he continues to make improvements to be one of their 8th through 10th guys in the rotation.
Yeah,
which can help as in the future. Not all these guys are going to be on the Thunder's roster. Some guys are going to start to get priced out. Thunder can't pay everybody, but to develop another guy like Mitchell who could potentially replace some of the guys that are like 8th through 10th guys in the rotation right now, at that price, that's going to be massive for the Thunder's long-term sustainability through the end of the decade. So we'll probably see more stories like AJ Mitchell over the coming years.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can hear baby in the background. And just by the way, I like it. I like having kids in the background. I've always had kids. If you've listened to my show ever, you know that you're going to hear one of my kids eventually in the background. And I welcome any of my guests to have kids, or like, I think you said your son's 1.5. Is that right?
Yeah, he's 1.5. He, like, right before we started this show, my wife and him literally just arrived back from a trip. I haven't seen him in a week, so I got to get a quick hug, and then came.
Oh man, I was pulling you away from your family. I feel bad now. Oh man.
Yeah, but then that's it. I'll be back with them. It's been a while.
We won't keep you for too long. With that, let's take a break. We'll come back. I have several more questions to ask you about this team and specifically the future of the team. We'll be right back. And we're back after that quick break. Before we talk more CBA and how it will affect the Thunder moving forward, I want to tell you about my good friends at Bob Moore Kia. Right now, listen, you can go get a Kia Sorento, which I would very much recommend. A 2025 Kia Sorento or the Sportage Hybrid, 0% for 48 months. That's a ridiculous deal. You got to go take them up on that. You can also get the K5, which I'm super into the K5s and the K4s. They're very cool cars. The K5 right now, $289 per month for 36 months on 10,000 miles per year, $3,499 due at signing. Incredible vehicles. You got to go check those out. You can also get the Telluride, a 25 Telluride for $389 a month for 36 months, 10,000 miles per year, $3,999 due at signing. Listen, if you've never considered a Kia, if you've never driven a Kia, I'm telling you, go stop by Bob Moore Kia. One, they're going to take care of you. They've got snacks. They've got snacks there. So stop in for a snack. Go drive a Kia, test drive a Kia. Tell them Down to Dunk sent you. I'm still driving around the Kia Carnival. I saw a Dunker. We were pulling up to Meddy's for lunch or for dinner the other day. We pulled up and there was a Dunker right there, saw me driving the Kia Carnival. And he was like, hey, he's driving the Kia. Listen, I'm always going to be driving the Kia. It's a beautiful vehicle. Go check out Bob Moore Kia today. Okay, Yossi, let's talk more about the future of this team, because I think that's what people are most concerned about. Because when people talk about the second apron and how you just can't keep teams together and all of this, I think that most people think that, okay, they look at the Isaiah Hartenstein deal. They can decline the option of $28.5 million in the 26-27 season, easily get themselves under the second apron. That seems like an easy option. But we talked about this on your podcast that went out today that you should go watch. It's on YouTube. It's over on any podcast app. If you want to listen on Spotify, you can listen to that. So you get all this stuff, but probably in a little bit more detail over there. But you told me like that's not the only way. So what are the other ways that they can actually achieve this outside of just getting rid of Isaiah Hartenstein?
So, so what we discussed yesterday was the Thunder. So they're going to be paying tax over the second half of this decade. They're going to be in the second apron in the later end. So by not paying any tax so far, like they've already won a championship. Maybe they can win another this season while avoiding the tax one more time. You're delaying your tax clock because the more you are in the tax, the more then you start to accumulate years in the tax. And once you're in the tax in 3 of 4 seasons, you become a designated repeat payer. So you start to pay higher rates. So they're gonna pay luxury tax in 26, 27, 27, 28, 28, 29. Assuming everything's going right. So then they'll probably start paying tax at the very beginning of the 2030s. Yeah. And if, we'll see obviously how how they're doing by then. It's 5 years from now. Yeah. They're and still even very young right now.
I don't know if you heard this, but Presti mentioned that in his end of season presser, where he talked about how like this CBA could technically be over with before we even get there. Like they have an opt out by that time. And so I thought it was really interesting that Sam mentioned that. And it's really interesting that you're mentioning that now, because like they could basically go through this whole CBA without having to pay like those crazy penalties. Like that would be very interesting if that's where this all kind of landed.
Yeah. But just based on the trajectory of how the CBA has been going in each negotiation, they've been making it like more penalty-ish, like a little more punitive for teams that want to spend more money. So I don't know if they're going to make the rules any easier on the Thunder.
Sure.
But they are well equipped for it. So they're going to be paying tax, and they're not going to be paying like, they'll probably be paying like north of $100 million a year, which nowadays that's actually kind of like typical for the top contenders.
Yeah.
The Cavs are going to pay that much. That's what the Suns were paying. Clippers and Warriors were paying that much. So they'll probably be paying something like that. And I don't think that's really going to be an issue for the Thunder. They've shown a willingness to spend in the past. In those Paul George years, they spent like one of the highest penalties in years. I don't want to more
again, but I'm so glad you mentioned that, because so many people forget that. I think so many people like they are like James Harden brained, by the Thunder, and they just think, yeah, this team will never pay. They never do this, but that's just really not the case. I just think that the Thunder, they meticulously plan when they're going to pay the tax. And we're seeing that with this current iteration. They have planned for this. They have planned for the years when they are going to be paying the tax. Now, how much of it they're going to pay, I think, is certainly a question. Like, I don't think that they're just going to pay out the nose every single year, but they are going to pay the tax. It is going to happen.
Yeah, and so they're going to be paying. They'll probably have like total roster expenses in like above $300 million, which again, that's kind of like typical now for like higher end. Like what's like the highest end teams would want to spend if they're going to be deep in the tax. So that's going to be like their next 3 years after this upcoming season. So the second apron thing, it's more so their penalties. It's not monetary. It's actually like competitive. They impact your draft picks. Uh, if you're in the second apron in a given year, then your draft pick 7 years in the future drops. I mean, I'm sorry, no, it gets frozen. The Thunder wouldn't be able to trade their 2030 like 5 first round pick if they are a second apron team in 26, 27.
Mm-hmm.
I think the bigger concern for most teams when it comes to the second apron is that if you are in the second apron, you have your pick frozen, and then you were in the second apron like in 2 of the following 3 years, then that pick falls to the end of the first round. And while a pick could be unfrozen, like you can trade it again, as far as I know, it can't. That dropping to the end of the first round can't be undone. So that's why I brought you on to discuss. Well, you know what? If they can delay being a second apron team and delaying that aspect, you know, because they're going to be in the second apron in 27, 28, 28, 29. If you can delay that whole thing by a year, then I think that might be worth it. And that's where we went into the exercise. So, you know, circling back to what you asked about, yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein, he's got this 28.5 million team option. When I tweeted about the Thunder's payroll for the first year of Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren's extensions, people in my replies were thinking, okay, well, if they're going to get below the second apron, because they're like, you know, something like 35 million above it, you could decline Isaiah Hartenstein. Hopefully Thomas Sorber will be ready and Chet Holmgren could be the 5 full time. But we were kind of like also going from the bottom up. First of all, they have like 3 first round picks in this next year's draft.
Yeah.
They're not going to keep all 3. They'll probably just keep 1. So, you know, you save some money right there, trim some roster spots there. You could decline like Kenrich Williams, for example, and maybe bring him back on a smaller deal. And yeah, you could decline Isaiah Hartenstein, maybe try to bring him back, or if the Thunder just decide they want to move on, then you fix things there. But this is where that rotational churn that I touched on, like, you know, just earlier, comes in, where, okay, you have AJ Mitchell now locked into this deal, making roughly $3 million a year. What if you can trade Isaiah Joe, get some value for him instead of paying him $11 million? Now you're replacing him with AJ Mitchell, making $3 million a year.
Yeah.
So this is the type of thing that, like, the Thunder, they're constantly still investing heavily in the draft, trying to take more chances on guys, not necessarily looking for the next superstar, which they might luck into anyways, but just to get guys who can play. And every year they bring in a guy who can actually be a rotation player. And the ability to bring in a guy who's going to be making around the minimum or be on a rookie scale deal, where, okay, maybe, so yeah, the same theory could apply to Sorber. If he is good enough in a couple years, then maybe they could just let Hartenstein go. If maybe with one of their draft picks, they can find someone who can be a wing that maybe allows them to move on from Wiggins. So stuff like that. Like, they have Cason Wallace right now. Eventually, he's going to need to get paid. If the Thunder want to keep him long term, maybe that comes at the expense of Caruso. So this is where that churn comes, where on one hand, you know, it might be painful to see some of the higher end role players, starters go, because it's just the reality of the league. It's going to be impossible to keep every single player. But at the same time, this is why you should be more optimistic about the Thunder's fate versus just what happened in, like, Boston, for example, where the Celtics had to trade like so many of their starters. The Suns, it didn't work out. They had to move on from just about everybody but Booker. Their big 3 they're not going to go anywhere. Like, the only way that changes is if, like, it'd be like circumstantial, like, hey, I don't want to be here. Like, that would be the only reason the Thunder move on from their big 3. So in all this, they're safe. We explained earlier why the way those max contracts are structured, why they're going to be fine. And it's just more about just updating their rotation from that time to time with more cost-effective guys, because eventually some guys got to get paid, but the Thunder are well situated with all these extra draft picks to bring in their potential replacements.
Yeah, and they also like everybody kind of gets a little bit of a value bump because when they played on a contender, and most of these guys are young. Like when you think about like having to trade away Drew Holiday, if you're the Celtics, well, like he's closer to his mid 30s, and like who knows what else he has left to give. But you're talking about trading these other guys that they have lower salaries, like Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe's contracts are very tradable because they have a good length to them, and they're a number that most teams can easily cobble up enough salary to be able to trade for these guys and give up some kind of asset to get them. Like everybody knows, like if Alex Caruso did have to get traded in case Wallace is ready to step up and take on a bigger role, like Alex Caruso is going to have a lot of value around the league, especially at this number that he's locked into. And so like the Thunder, I just think that they're in this really good position to not only be sustainable because of the assets they have, like they're going to be sustainable because of some of the assets they can gain too. Because almost everybody on this roster probably has some kind of positive value, probably outside of Usman Jang. Like Us might be like one of the only guys on the team that doesn't have like positive trade value at this point. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I was a little surprised that it was Dylan Jones who got. I mean, I never really watched him, so
Sure.
But I figured because there's more time on him, I thought Uz would be the guy that they look to move to facilitate restructuring Jay Will's deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they still have him. I don't know what the plan is, if they're gonna just hope it could finally happen. But yeah, no, everybody else on the roster, like Kenrich Williams is the other guy where he's got the most value to the Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly like yeah, he can play. He'd probably get more minutes elsewhere, but the Thunder, like they really value him for his veteran leadership as well. And that's why I talk about, okay, if they do decline his team option, maybe they just bring him back on something a little smaller. But then, yeah, everybody, I don't know, maybe Kenrich Williams could get them like a couple second round picks. Maybe I'm wrong. But then like, yeah, everybody would return the Thunder positive value, whether that's extra draft picks, a different rotation player. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, you did a expansion draft on your podcast, which I would recommend everybody go listen to. It's a very fun listen. And we actually talked about it on our Friday show this past Friday, because one of the things that happened in it was Nikola Topic was left unprotected in this expansion draft. And I think most people that are listening to this kind of understand the expansion draft is you could protect 8 players, or these were the former rules. We don't know what the new rules would be, but the former rules were you can protect 8 players, and then everybody else is left unprotected. And then the expansion team, whether it's team in Seattle, team in Vegas, or wherever, you can go and ask for those players, and then the Thunder could basically negotiate instead of giving up Nikola Topic. And what you guys landed on was giving up Aaron Wiggins and I think it was the Sixers first round pick next year instead of Topic. We talk listeners through that decision real quick. I just thought it was just fascinating to listen to it.
So a lot of the deals, I was representing all other 30 teams, and some of the deals I did, like a lot of the deals I did just because like, hey, I got to get some deals done just to like show how this would work, how like an example of how this good stuff could work.
Yeah.
So, and then as you mentioned, yeah, those are like quote unquote the old rules. I'm sure that whenever expansion does happen, they're gonna both sides get together, update the rules. Maybe they'll protect more players this time. They'll let teams protect more players this time. Maybe like 1 or 2 more. Which would help a team like the Thunder a lot, because right now they do have this embarrassment of riches in terms of players with positive value, and as it's gonna get trimmed down as time goes, even with the extra draft picks, it's gonna happen. It's teams that have had like this many players with high upside. Eventually, it'll even as they keep trying to bring in more guys, like it's not gonna be like they're not gonna be like this. You know, have this much depth, but so which would be a problem if there was expansion right now, where the Thunder, in all likelihood, they probably would protect their starting lineup, Caruso, I suppose, Kaysen, and then plus one other guy. I protected Thomas Sorber just because I wanted to keep another big guy. So that means the Thunder would be at a risk of losing Joe, Wiggins, Jay Will, and Nikola Topic. So the reason I decided to negotiate to keep Topic, I feel like he has the most value out of everyone there, and also because of this potential financial cliff and trying to avoid the second apron at least one more year, it would help to move off Joe or Wiggins, especially when I already have AJ Mitchell. So yeah, that was probably a lot of value to give up that Sixers pick. But guess what? I have to give up a pick anyways because we're not going to keep all these picks. So all I'm going to say is good thing expansion's not happening anytime soon if you're a Thunder fan, because I would guess, and I don't think they would have done the trade I did. I think they'd just be like, all right, just take whoever and we'll bite the bullet. Like we got so many draft picks. It's interesting because there's never been, since the last time we had expansion, there's never been teams that have so much extra draft picks, so many young players, teams like the Thunder, Nets, Jazz, probably another one I'm missing. Houston, yes. And then on the other end of that, they're the teams that gave up all their stuff to those teams, like the Suns, Bucks. The Wolves gave up so much. Yeah, the Bucks. And then those teams were a little more vulnerable. Like the Wolves, especially. I just had to give up Terrence Shannon Jr. I had no picks to negotiate. I just did it. Here, I cannot do anything to convince you to not take them. So enjoy Terrence Shannon.
It is a really tangible way to like articulate how much of a better position the Thunder are in than most teams, because there were players who are like, I have no option. I have no option except for you can take the guy that you said you wanted, because we have nothing to negotiate at this point. I thought it was really interesting. It's an interesting listen. I think that like for Thunder fans, obviously like the Topic thing is like its own thing, and it's moot because we will have so much more information about Topic by the time that this actually happens, or if it does even happen. Like we'll have so much more information about him. Right now, it's really tough for, I think, some people to think like, oh my gosh, we're giving up Aaron Wiggins. Like Aaron Wiggins is a guy that I know is good at basketball. We haven't seen what Topic can do yet. So I just think like that whole bit is just an interesting exercise. But I do think it really does illustrate like the good position that some teams are in, because you can negotiate when it comes to these things, and other teams are just kind of helpless to it all. Like it just happens to them kind of thing.
Yeah, and that was the point of me making some of these trades. Like I know I gave up a ton of value in some of them. Like I gave up a lot of value as the Sixers to get one of the expansion teams to take on Embiid or George, just because to get off that money.
Yeah.
To show like these teams, these new expansion teams, they're not just locked at taking whoever there is. They can work with these teams to try to get extra picks, because like if you're an expansion team, what do you need? You need draft picks. You need to load up on that chest, and that's going to be your way out of the bottom tier of the league. So if you take on some bad money but get some draft picks attached, that makes more sense than taking, some role player who might be like your 9th or 10th guy in your rotation in your first year in the league. So that was kind of like to show how cool expansion, like the concept might be when it happens, because I don't think it's ever been something like televised. I'm sure they'd figure out a way at this point just to milk it. And that'd be
we'll be covering it like via YouTube and all this other stuff. There'll be ways to like consume the content, even if like, you know, the stakeholders don't actually do anything about it, which I would be so surprised if they didn't. Like it would be kind of weird.
Yeah. I'd have to see. I know there's been expansion in the NHL, so I don't know, I'm gonna now that I think of it, I'm gonna look up, see if there was something there.
Yeah,
That'd be interesting to know.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Yossi, we'll let you get back to your family now. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Go check out the Third Apron podcast and the Substack. It's very valuable information. If you just want to know more, like it's all very digestible. A lot of it, like if you go try to read the CBA, it's like you're going back to school, man. Yossi does a really good job of making it very digestible. So please go check him out. Follow him on Twitter at YOSSIGOZLAN, Yossi Gozlan. Anything else you want to promote before we go?
Just subscribe to Third Apron. It's my podcast and my newsletter on Substack. A lot more deeper salary cap analysis there. And follow me on Twitter. I think you just mentioned that.
Yeah. Please do it. He's great. Go support him. Appreciate you guys listening. Alex is having computer trouble. It's so sad, but Alex will be back with us next week. We will have an episode of Slam and Jam this week as well. So if you want to hear me and Alex, you can listen to us on the Athletic NBA daily feed at the end of this week. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and we will talk to you guys again on Friday.
Until to die, until to die.